What I've learned from attending events. If you've been following our channel at all, then you know I've been attending a ton of different events. Me, myself, Jenna and myself have been attending so many events throughout the year. I think we've attended, I would say, at least 80% of the events that have been hosted for the industrial automation, manufacturing sector, machining, any sector really that's in the manufacturing space. We have been there, right? Whether they're big, massive shows like Automate or IMTS, or some of the smaller shows like that are hosted by like our vendors, NEF. We've learned so many different things from these events, and I'd like to share these learnings with you guys in this video. So the first thing that I have is these events are super important to attend. I highly suggest anybody and everybody attend these events. And the reason for that is because there's so many different values to these events. Like, I can't even really write down a specific thing that is a good reason to go to this event. Now, I have a list of things that are definitely reasons to go to the event, but they're all so valuable that it's just hard to say, like, what thing of the event is better than another. And if I had one thing, that thing would be the exposure to the industry as a whole. So the thing that I like to say is that by attending all these different events, you're getting to witness like little pieces and parts of different events, because like IMTS is very much machining, Automate is very much automation, Modex was very much logistical, like transportation side of manufacturing. And all these different shows have given a little flavor taste of each individual sector of the industry. And that's so important, because once you start to get all these tastes and these visions of these sectors of the industry, what you start to see is a picture, right? A picture starts getting painted on how the industry is operating and where things are coming from and getting supplied to. And, you know, some people may say like supply chain, and it definitely is supply chain in a way, but it gets deeper than that, right? Like, who's building the CNC machines? Did you know that like the CNC machines are a lot of the components that are actually inside that CNC machine is coming from another company that's not even a CNC company, or they're a machine company, but it's not even that builder of that machine, or automation companies like ourselves that like a lot of the machining is not even done in-house for some of these other automation companies. These things that you think, a lot of these things, you think that they operate in a certain way, and really your mind could be kind of skewed a little bit, or just like kind of have some like aha moments, like, wow, I didn't anticipate that, you know, this came from there or that came from. So your mind gets opened up to the whole entire ecosystem of how the industry operates. And I'll be honest, 101%. I've been in the industry for almost 10 years, and actually over 10 years, and I've never had the amount of eye-opening and awareness of the industry as a whole until attending all these different events. And also, another thing to keep in mind, it is the attending of all these different events that have opened my eyes to that, right? If I would have just attended 1 or 2 events or 3 events, it's likely that my mind would not have seen the same thing, because I wouldn't have seen, you know, this one company at another event, or I wouldn't have seen that like, oh, there's this whole ecosystem of companies here at this event. For example, like FabTech, which is one of the most recent events that we've went to, FabTech was kind of quite a bit different than what I anticipated, right? And that's another thing too, is you get to understand what these events are about. So let's say, for instance, FabTech, you know, it was so different in the way that, like, you know, it's very much fabrication. You say, okay, well, fabrication, what does that mean, right? Well, this is like the cutting of metals, the welding of metals, the, you know, water jetting of metals, the laser cutting or plasma cutting of metals, engraving, robotic welding, just welding power supplies for hand welding. And even though it's fab tech, fabrication, you still like really may not have like deep insight of what that really means. And so that's kind of like the next very important part to attending these events, is that you actually understand what the event is about, right? So, you know, you get a whole entire landscape view of what's going on inside the industry, but then also at the specific event, you get a better understanding of what is there at that event. What is this event really about? Because 101%, these events have completely different cultures. They have completely different vibes. Like, it's just wild, like how different the vibe is between these different events. Even though some of them were even hosted at the same facility, like we did 2 of them in Chicago that were hosted at the same facility, but the vibe was completely different. It felt like it was in a completely different building. And you can't really experience that without going there and seeing it. Even though we make videos around these different events, like it's just still not the same as being there and being able to witness it. And also too, like we consume the whole thing, right? People go in and out in a day or go and spend 2 days and then they're gone. And like we immersed ourselves in these things 101%. Like if it was a 4-day event, we was there 4 days. If it was a 3-day event, we was there 3 days. There was very few events that we kind of bounced out and left on, and that was just because like maybe the event was really small and we kind of done seen everything. We done talked and mingled with people. But you know, a lot of times, even like on the smaller events, like we're still there to like communicate, talk with people, do after parties, like just like keep the conversation going and having a deeper understanding of what's going on there at that show. I mean, you have so many companies that are there that you can learn from the company. You can learn what type of technologies and like get a deep understanding, right? There's like an overview of like what does everything look like as a big picture, but then there's also the small technological things that you can learn too. Like we sat in on some welding stuff by like Lincoln Electric with like tandem welding, and you know, that thing's like super valuable to like understand like the technology behind like, you know, why the tandem welding is important. And you know, actually the one we set on was like the next generation of tandem welding. I don't remember what the abbreviations were, but like, you know, basically it was a newer technology than just regular tandem welding that I think actually gave you tandem welding capabilities with a single torch. And you know, we learned basically how that operation works and can be very applicable to our business, and if we can install that type of power supply onto our welding robots, so that way the robots that we're deploying get the best potential weld possible. But if we don't know about those things and it's a brand new thing to the industry, then nobody knows about those things. We're the first people there seeing these different technologies, and so for like us as a company or you as an engineer or a business owner, like these things are super valuable, knowing these smaller nuances, not only just the broad scope of the industry, which is, you know, super important. So now like we're looking at these things, we've attended all these different events, and by far like the thing that we learned was FabTech is our favorite event, right? It mainly was the most advantageous for business for us, right? Because of us doing robotic welding, there were so many things in that realm of things, like us being able to learn the technologies, us being able to provide and offer our services. For example, a huge thing that we learned, everybody that we talked to, nobody wants to do robotic weld fixtures, which is one of the main things that we do, right? And so we were like, holy cow, like there's a huge gap in the market for the service that we're offering. And we have engineers on our teams that are like experts at doing this thing, right? And so, you know, by going to that event, we witnessed a sales thing, right? Like a lot of these events were going for, let's say, sales or networking or whatever, right? But this one was like the one that was like, we weren't even trying to sell anything. Like when we go to these events, we never really try to sell anything, which we probably should, but we don't really try to sell. We're just trying to network and learn things and you know, open our eyes to the industry and whatnot. And this was just like organically, like we talked about what we did, they talked about what they did, and we just found like these gaps, right? And so like your business or your career, you might start to find gaps. And you may, you know, say for on the career side, you might have a position at a company that you're doing and notice that, hey, like if I make this little bit of a career shift, if I learn this extra little thing, I may have way more upside in my career. I may be able to get a way better job. And you can even talk to these individuals about jobs. Like, hey, what do you guys make like working at this company here? What do your benefits look like? I mean, these are kind of like strange questions to ask. But I mean, in reality, you might be like, y'all make like $35 an hour. I'm making $22 an hour to do that same thing. And so now you might make a career shift that makes you $10 more an hour. And if you had to, you know, miss out on work or use a vacation day or something like that, you might find out something like that will make you $20,000 more a year, and you lost out on what, $500, something like that. So like these shows can be very advantageous in that point. And if you're a business owner, like it's the same concept as we ran into. We found a gap in the market, or let's say for you're a manufacturer, right? Maybe it's this new technology that can speed up your whole process, or you didn't even really understand and know that robotic welding was such a big thing, or maybe you thought robotic welding was for automotive industry only, and you didn't think that like your normal fabrication shops can actually use robotic welding. And this is something to keep in mind, that like robotic welding is getting smarter, and the robot's deployment is becoming easier. You're able to do really cool things with like robotic welding that you weren't able to do in the past, and also even just the mindset and thinking about it, right? Robots have become easier to program so that, let's say, for instance, if you have a weld path that you need to make and it's going to take you an hour to do this weld path because it's like 2 feet long, 3 feet long, 4 feet long, whatever, right? And maybe that weld path has to have, 3, 4, 5, 6 passes to it or something like that on a huge structure. That's a lot of time. That's somebody just sitting there welding all day. And there's programs and tools inside robots now where you can set a start point, set an end point, and kind of have some predetermined structures on how you want it to do its pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And just set the robot, hit start, and just let it do its weld paths, and it'll just sit there and run all day, right? And so if you don't learn that piece of technology, then how do you implement that into your business? And something like that, like, you may not learn that that's even an opportunity for you unless you attend these events. So I think that, I suggest anybody and everybody to attend these events. Like, the only reason I would say don't attend these events is that they just have nothing to do with your business at all. Like, we're not going to go to a cooking trade show. We're not going to go to a cupcake baking trade show because that don't make sense for us because it's not in our industry. So you got to think about what's in your industry. And if you happen to randomly be watching this video and you're not in the manufacturing industry, find the trade shows that are in your industry, right? Find the trade shows that will be valuable to your company, to your career, and take notes of them, right? You could also follow influencers like ourselves, and there's Jay Call and Chris and all these individuals who are posting up content about these different trade shows and giving out lists of these different trade shows of, hey, this trade show, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, right? A whole list of 10 different trade shows that they're going to be attending this year, or trade shows that we think you should be attending this year. And we like to produce those things like as we learn, and we're going to probably be creating all kinds of more content like this video, maybe in a picture form, in copy form, written word form, that are going to help educate you guys on what events to attend. Like, if you do have to choose only 3 out of the 6, or choose one that just fits your company better, right? Or your career path better. Because if you're doing nothing in welding, then why would you go to fab tech? If you're doing nothing in fabrication, why would you go to fab tech? But I think, whether you're a business owner, engineer, a high school kid, like, with no clue what you're going to do in your career, like, this is also a great way to, like, flavor taste and understand, like, what's going on in the industry, what's going on in careers, and just talk to people, have conversations, and start to build out those relationships. So I hope you found this video valuable. We have other event content that's like us vlogging at the events, us just getting B-roll and shooting content of the events, so you can get an inside look at what these events look like. And if you have any other requests for any other events into the future, put them down in the comments below. We'll make sure we try to attend those events, record content for those events. Thank you guys for viewing, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.